Let's do it. Hello everyone, and if you are Estonian, then tere jälle, and welcome to part 2 of this Estonian video, and welcome to Understandable English. This video is part of a travel series that I have started, and I tell you about all the different trips that I have taken and the places that I have been, the places that I have seen, all in a very relaxed and understandable way. This way you can learn about the world and also learn English at the same time. Today, as I have already mentioned, we are going to continue to talk about Estonia. And this time we'll talk a little bit more about the different cities and regions, not just the capital city, Tallinn. So in the summer of 2022, I had planned a 2-week-long trip to the Baltics with my whole family. I was excited to bring them to this place that I very much like myself. But unfortunately, at the last moment, my sister got sick and they had to cancel all of the trip and all of their plans. Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, I was already in Estonia, so I called an audible and decided to stay here for another month in order to explore and see the places that I had not seen before. Now let's start with Tartu, which is a student city, more or less in the center of Estonia. And the first thoughts I had when I came to Tartu was that it was very green. It was much different than what I remember in Tallinn. And so I was excited to just walk and explore. It didn't really feel like it was a big city. It had this relaxed, natural vibe to it. So it made it a lot of fun to walk around in. As I mentioned, it is a student town. And I really enjoy these types of student towns because they have a certain energy to them. They radiate this idea that everything is possible and that there is a future that is worth working for. I really enjoy these young towns for that reason. And Tartu was just the same. I also liked the various small museums that I saw in Tartu. One of them that I wasn't expecting was the observatory. And there was this huge telescope that caught my eye. I love space and I love everything that has to do with it, so I spent a good amount of time exploring this museum. Little did I know that the person who built that telescope had the same last name as my mother did before she got married. It was her maiden name. When I sent her the picture of the plaque with the name of the guy who built the telescope, as a joke I sent it to her, well, she sent back that, well, I think that this person is related to us. I'm not so sure if it's true or not, but I'll take my mom's word for it. Why not? I also had the pleasure to explore Võru, which is a little bit further south and east from Tartu. For me, this city was interesting because of the linguistic side of things. As you probably know, I really enjoy all things that have to do with languages. And so in Võru there is a more or less, you could call it a dialect of Estonian that is a little bit different. So I was excited to finally hear it with my own ears. When I was in Valga, which is in the southern part of Estonia, right on the border with Latvia, I was interested in this place simply because it's a border town that is split half and half with 2 countries. As an American, that was a bit of a foreign idea to me. Of course, we have borders between our states in the United States, but they're not the same as country borders. And so it was interesting to me to have this sort of open country border, which is nothing that I've ever seen in the United States. So it was fun to go between 2 countries back and forth, even though you didn't have to go through passport control or anything like that. When you talk about Estonia, of course, there are lots of cities, but nature is something that is also very stellar. I enjoyed quite a few of the different national parks that Estonia has to offer. And the one thing that is quite unique, I would say, to Estonia, or at least the Baltic region, is the abundance or the many bogs that they have. It was interesting to walk in these places where the ground or the earth was like a sponge. You had to be careful where you walked and where you stepped in order to not fall or get very wet. You could also swim in these places. and the water was quite clean because it was in a bog. So I remember jumping into this strange pond or pool and thinking it was dirty because the water was dark. But no, it was a clean little pond that you could swim in just fine. In the small town of Rapla, Estonia, I celebrated Jaanipäev, which is a celebration of the summer solstice. In a lot of Northern European countries and Scandinavian countries, they have a similar tradition, but each one is a little bit different. In Estonia, the big tradition is a huge bonfire. And when I say huge, I mean huge. The one that we had was almost 3 or 4 meters tall. It was massive, but it was wonderful to see. You could feel the heat from a long, long distance away. I love these summer holidays like this because the sun doesn't quite go down in the north. And so you have these sort of magical nights where it's still light and the sky is kind of this whitish, bluish color, and it's a wonderfully beautiful time to be around. Being in Estonia, I still passed through Tallinn at least once. And when I was there, the Old Town Days festival was happening, and it was a different side of the city that I hadn't seen before. Of course, it was packed. There were so many people. But what can you expect when there's a tourist festival happening? I got to see a concert for the band The Smilers, which is a famous Estonian band who I enjoyed listening to beforehand. And so I was excited that I could go to a concert of a band that I never expected I would ever see live. There was also the celebration of the flag. The Estonian flag is blue, white, and black. And many Estonians have told me that this symbolizes the idea of black or the ground, white is like snow, and blue is like the sky. But I've heard other people say that that's not quite true. So if you're Estonian, let me know in the comments if this is true or not. With a short visit to Narva on the eastern edge of Estonia, I got to visit and see firsthand the effects of the occupation of Estonia after the Second World War. But it was interesting enough to be on the edge of the EU, to walk along the river, but I wouldn't really say that Narva is much of a tourist spot. In Rakvere, which is another smaller city in Estonia, I enjoyed the large castle, and one of my favorite parts was, as I was exploring the insides, there seemed to be some sort of children's camp happening. And so there was a group of probably 50 small kids who were all given a wooden sword, and as the leader of this camp, or someone, said go, all of these kids started running around and just hitting and beating each other with these wooden swords. And it was very funny to watch, and so I really enjoyed that as well. Also, I ended up losing my backpack while I was there, because I left my backpack in the gift shop because they said I could leave it there while I toured the castle. But when I came back, the gift shop was closed. Somehow there was a mistake, and so I needed to find a way to get my backpack back. But after talking to some very nice people, we finally found a way to get into the gift shop and get my backpack back. I passed through Pärnu, which is a beach town on the western side of Estonia. I spent only a day there. It's a cute little city, but I'm not one to sit on the beach for too long, and so I didn't stay for too long. But it seems like quite a nice summer city to be in. The last place that I visited in Estonia on this trip were the islands, Saaremaa and Hiumaa. I ended up renting a bike and going on a bike packing trip along these islands. And it was quite fun. I enjoyed the endless flat roads, these beautiful fields. You would stumble upon a church or a small village, some sort of lighthouses. You could watch the sea. It was quite a relaxing way to finish my trip in Estonia. But that wraps up my second video about Estonia. I'm glad that you listened to my rambling and my gushing about one of my favorite countries in the whole world, and I hope that one day I will visit again. If you learned something new, I would love it if you pressed like and subscribed so that you can learn even more with me as I continue to tell you about different trips that I take around the world in different places that I've seen. As always, have a wonderful rest of your day. Toodles!